Good evening to you all. I'm Lafina. I'm the co-founder of Eurekadoc, and I'm really excited about starting this webinar this evening, which is one of the first of our careers clinic webinars. And what we're going to be learning about this evening is how to break through career confusion to transform your life as well as your career. And the reason that we're doing this webinar is that all of us at one time or another have probably felt a bit confused about our careers, perhaps not sure that we've made the right choice, or kind of flirting with the idea of transitioning into another career, or transforming the career that we're in right now. And some of us aren't really sure how to go about that. So we thought it would be a great idea to get a really fantastic speaker on. Her name's Dr. Aitsi-Selmi, and she's had a really diverse and interesting career herself. So Amina's worked in lots of different fields, including global health. She's done a lot of research and worked in health policy, as well as coaching doctors to transform their careers. And this is what's going to be really relevant to you tonight. So I hope you're all looking forward to it. We're going to have a great time. It's a really interactive session, and I'd encourage you all to ask questions either as we go along or towards the end of the webinar. So just to make sure that we're all on board and sorted tech-wise, I'd just like to draw your attention to the taskbar. So depending on what kind of a screen or maybe a tablet that you're on, you'll find at the bottom of the page, you should have a chat button and a Q&A button. So can I just remind you all, if you have a question, please use the Q&A button, because it makes it much easier for our speaker and also myself just hosting the questions to be able to look at your questions and answer them. Because if you put your question in the chat box, then we won't necessarily, we might miss it, we won't necessarily see it. So let's just try this out. So using the chat box, it would be really great to hear where everyone is calling in tonight. So could you just type into the chat box right now your name and perhaps where you're calling in from and what you'd like to learn on this webinar. So just waiting for that chat box to open up. There's a small delay on this. That's fantastic. Fola, hello from Leicester. Great to see you online again. And we've got Elon. Oh gosh, this screen's whizzing now, calling from London. Denise from the Wirral. Hello, Denise. Great to see you online. Jas from Birmingham, we've got Lizelle from London, Naoko from Surrey, excited for this webinar, so are we, that's great. We're going to learn loads. We've got Sabina from London, we've got Victoria, who's a GP in Cambridge. Welcome, everyone. That's fantastic. So it seems that we're all okay with our tech. So without further ado, I'd just like to now introduce you to Amina. Amina, are you online with us?
I am.
Amazing. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving up your time to share these pearls of wisdom with us tonight.
Oh, not at all. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
So do I take it from here?
Yeah, please do. If you have any problems with the slides, just let me know, and then I'll do my best to sort any tech problems out.
Okay.
So I'm just going to stop my video now, and Amina's going to take over from here.
Great. Okay. So I'm new to webinars, so excuse me while I work things out. Yeah. So can you see that?
So if you just click on share screen. Yeah, just bear with us a couple of minutes, everyone. Think of some good questions that you're going to ask Amina through this webinar. So just click on share screen and on share your slides. Yeah, that's perfect. Awesome.
Phew. All right. Sorry about that, everybody.
Don't worry.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Lafina. And I just want to start by inviting you all to take a deep breath, because I'm going to take one myself. And I'm sure you've all had busy days doing things, making your your mark on the world in one way or another. So it's good to just take a deep breath. And I'd invite you to get the most out of the webinar, to try and just focus on this. Try and just focus on one thing, and not to try and take it too analytically, but to try and drop into the sort of learning zone, so you can pick up on what's relevant for you. You don't need to take in everything that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to share quite a few insights from my own journey with you. So just try and drop in to that more relaxed zone so you can pick up on the one insight that could make the difference for you. And my coaching is very much insight-based, so working with doctors and other kind of high-performing professionals who are super competent. They don't need like massive overhauls in their thinking. It's the tweaks that help them pivot in the right direction that can make the difference. So look out for the insight, the key insight. I might ask you about it at the end. What was the key insight for you out of all of this? And so 80% of success is showing up, right? And I'm here because one of my clients introduced me to Lafina, and I wasn't sure about the webinar modality because I'm not used to it. I'm very much used to one-to-one work and kind of deep coaching, deep work that goes into the whys and wherefores of people's decisions. But when I met Lafina, I just thought she was so fantastic. I'm sure you can see how much of an inspiration she is. And I love the work that Eurekadoc are trying to do to create a platform for doctors thinking outside the box, which is quite a novelty. I'm sure that you've come across people who say, why would you want to change career as a doctor? You know, if you're a doctor for life. But I found that from my own experience and working with other doctors, that's no longer the case. The labor market's changing, the world is changing, and there are many opportunities available. And the single career for life is not really the done thing anymore, including for doctors. So this is my brief introduction. So I'm currently working as a coach, but I also have links with UCL and continue to teach in global health and epidemiology. What can you expect from tonight's webinar? So you may have seen the learning objectives. So there's gaining clarity if you're feeling a little bit confused or need a little bit of a nudge to go in the right direction again. We'll talk about things that might sabotage your progress and hold you back. We'll talk about 10 steps to try and avoid getting confused and lost and make sure that you've got some kind of strategy to move forward in your career, especially if you're thinking of transforming it or changing it. We'll talk about specific mindsets that medics have that can hold them back. And then we'll wrap up with 5 daily actions that can help you catalyze your change or your career leap if you want to take one, and useful in any case in terms of staying, creating a career that you really love and care about and gives you fulfillment. So just want to check, how does that sound? Is there something you want to get out of the webinar that's specific? Would you like to share that? I'd be curious to know if there's something specific that you want to get out of the webinar tonight, so I can tune in and make sure that I deliver for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's really kind. So everyone, if you just use your chat box and just give us a little bit of feedback, how does all of that sound? Is there anything in particular that you would like to learn about tonight? If so, now's your time. Type it into the chat box and let us know, and we'll see if we can cover it during the webinar or just afterwards. Elon saying all sounds fab. Thank you for the feedback. That's great. And I can see someone's using their Q&A box correctly. Thank you, Maggie. Will the slides be available after the webinar, please? Amina, would that be okay with you if we sent the slides out afterwards to everyone?
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Absolutely. So there you go, Maggie. We can send those out to you. Okay, so I don't think there are any more questions for now, Amina, so I think we can probably just move on. Just Sabina's also saying it's exactly what I was hoping to hear about. Thank you, Amina.
Hi, Sabina. All right, okie dokie. So if you take nothing away from this webinar, just remember that it's a journey. So wherever you are right now, whether it's a high or a low, that will change. So you can expect change in life. And this is what I learned from my very diverse career. And I've come to really believe that it's all about learning and developing as a person. And as you develop as a person, you have different experiences that are interesting, exciting, challenging, and that's the fun of life. So you can see here on the left, the ITU photo where I was learning, but I didn't have necessarily the impact. I was preparing for MRCP, and I was learning about metalloproteinases, and at best I was extending life. On the right, on the other hand, it was a very challenging situation in South Sudan, doing humanitarian medicine. But I was learning not just facts, but also about myself. And the learning I was doing really made much more of an impact. And as a result, I felt more fulfilled. So although on the left, I had much more comfort, let's say, on the right, I felt much more alive. So learning and contribution are the values that I hold dearest, and that you will see transpire through the webinar as my philosophy. In terms of my career, I graduated from Cambridge in 2002. Then I did house jobs. I did some SHO. I did an SHO rotation and an A&E job one in Wales, which was a really amazing learning experience. I then worked with MSF in South Sudan for a few months, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that experience. And then from medical school, I knew I wanted to do public health. So I got myself on an ACF SPR public health rotation. And through that, I did the master's in public health, a PhD looking at the epidemiology of obesity in low and middle income countries in women. And then I did the policy learning, so at local level, national level, and international level. And then finally got my CCT and became a consultant in public health at Public Health England. And by that time, I felt like I had come to the other side of, or I'd kind of realized my medical school dream. And I will tell you about some of the key points in that journey. Now, as I mentioned, I work as a transformational coach. I have a practice on Harley Street. If you'd asked me 2 or 3 years ago whether I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you. But we all have to follow our calling, and we all have to follow the direction that life is taking us in, and grow in the process. As I mentioned, I'm still an honorary clinical lecturer at UCL, and I have a contract with McKinsey, but I don't currently work on any projects with them. But it's just to tell you that I've had quite a range of experience in medicine, and I hope to share some insights from that with you tonight. So a few key moments. So all of this started at medical school. I was sitting in a demography lecture in second year medical school, and suddenly this slide flashed up. It was a slide on infant mortality rate, and I was just struck by how amazing this was. From a single number, you could tell so much about the situation, the health situation of a country, its needs, and also start to devise strategies and policies and programs to make a difference and save lives. And from that point on, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know what it was. I eventually found out it was public health and epidemiology. And if I wanted to do that as a doctor, that would be my career. So that was it. I was hooked, and I committed to doing that and started to find out what I needed to do to get there. Fast forward a few years, and my first, oh, sorry, I should have mentioned the previous photo was in Cuba on my elective. And so I took myself to Cuba because they have an amazing public health system using very few resources. And then this photo is in Abyei, South Sudan, where I went with MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, as a humanitarian doctor, and was in charge of 50,000, a returnee village of 50,000 people, and was the only doctor there. And I have to say that was when I really cut my teeth as a doctor, and when I really had to grow, and when I learned the most. at one point, there was a situation where there was a lady in obstructed labor, and they were expecting me to do something because I was the doctor. So I found myself with a WHO manual for obstetrics, a pair of forceps, and some and drugs to give because the lady was eclamptic. I wouldn't recommend that sort of situation if you can avoid it, but it's something that stuck with me. And a saying that comes to mind is that resourcefulness is better than resources. So it's great to have resources, but resourcefulness is really what can get you through the tough spots. So then I came back from MSF, from South Sudan. I really enjoyed it, but I was more about the bigger picture and about the prevention, not the reactive stuff, humanitarian medicine. And I started to tick the boxes. Yes, the masters, the PhD, the exams, and all the competencies, and somehow I managed to get lost along the way and forgot what my original passion was about. And I realized I didn't want to do academia, and that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should do it. So that was a big lesson there. And then found myself in a job that was half local, half national, but it didn't feel right. And I wasn't comfortable at all. I was starting to get really sort of almost depressed, and I couldn't sleep at night. Until I bumped into a lady in a lift who we struck up a conversation, and she asked me to come and see what she was doing. And she was working on the 2015 United Nations agenda. And it all sounded great, but I was so confused, I couldn't quite see the opportunity. And when I mentioned it to one of my mentors at the time, or a senior authority at the time, they kind of crushed the idea, and I actually left the building and was sat crying in a park. I had no idea what to do next. If I went for the international stuff, it would be a great opportunity, but there were no jobs at the end necessarily. And if I went for the standard jobs, well, I'd have more security, but my heart just wasn't in it. Now, luckily, or serendipitously, I ended up in Alaska for a conference. And what happened there is two things. So this picture is on a mountain in Arctic Valley. And I had this very powerful experience trying to come down the mountain, which I was struggling with a little bit, to just take one step at a time and not look down. And sure enough, I found myself at the bottom of the mountain, no problem. It turns out that's also how you climb Everest. You only take one step at a time and you don't look up. So that kind of did something to my psyche, to my brain, and unlocked something. And then the next thing that happened was I was in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you've been to Alaska or a similar region. It's awesome. It's awesome, and it's quiet, and it's almost overpowering in terms of its majesty. And all the voices and the noise died down. And what was left was just my inner voice, my own compass. And suddenly it became very clear to me that I needed to take a risk and go for the international health opportunity. So that's what I did. And within a few short months, I found that I had realized the dream that I had at medical school of doing, influencing health at a high level, being involved with the WHO and the United Nations, and in high level meetings, influencing policy at that level. And I have to say that I could not have planned it. When I was sitting in that park crying, there's no way I could see a way forward, or that I could have rationally planned it. What I believe happened is that I was able to embrace uncertainty, take a risk, and listen to my own intuition. So if you want to stop the seminar now, you can, because those pieces, those principles will really hold you in good stead, in my humble opinion. So yeah, so reframing success you could say is what happened. So there's no straight line that you can work out analytically. I know in medicine we're kind of given this career path, and you have to do these jobs and get these references, and then you're sort of, you know, you're made. And I don't think that applies for everybody, and I don't know if it's a good way to go anyway. So success was more like what's on the right. There are twists and turns to it, and being able to navigate that with a steady heart will get you forward. So if you don't know where you are right now, or at a blind end, or not sure exactly where you're going, it's okay. You're probably just on one of these little twists. Another way of thinking about it is this iceberg model, in that, yeah, success, especially if you're looking at other people, or if you're looking at people's Facebook reel, or their presentations, or the kind of some people are very good at presenting the success part, but what's really going on behind it is everything underneath there, and it involves a lot of hard work, the right decisions, and a lot of experimentation, disappointment, and failure. So those things are all okay. And again, in medicine, we're not used to that. It's not like we're not like chemists or entrepreneurs, where it's normal to fail. If you're not failing, then you're not trying hard enough.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic slide as well, Amina. Seen it lots of times in different contexts. And you're so right. It's just the tip of the iceberg, what you see, you know, of someone else's career, which, you know, I'm just saying that's what we're talking about this evening. But there's so much else going on beneath the surface, and it's a journey, isn't it? Like you say, you've got to fail, you've got to test things and try it out. And none of us have got the magic answers that we can give you overnight. But I think the key is just in accepting that it might take a little bit of time to work out the answer to your problem. And Amina is going to give some amazing tips on how to do that as well.
Let's hope so. So the bottom line is, if you think you're confused, you're probably not confused. You're just going through this journey of transformation. And this is a slide based on some psychology research. And you may have come across this as the learning journey, when you go from uninformed to uninformed optimism to informed pessimism, informed optimism. And then there should be uninformed optimism at the end, which is when you're in flow. You're so good at what you're doing that you're not even doing it consciously. So, I'll give you a few seconds just to have a look at that slide, because it is important, and essentially it will capture the full journey. So you can start off thinking, yay, okay, I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna change career, I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna set up a thing, I'm going to go to Africa, I'm going to whatever. And that's great. Then you just know that there is the part that comes afterwards, which is the part of you that starts to doubt, because it's not a straight line, as we said. There are twists and turns, and there's a part of you that won't like that. So that part of you will kick in at some point and will try and hold you back. And navigating that successfully is what gets you to the other side, where you start to see results, and you start to get the opportunities that you wanted, and you start to move forward. So I hope that makes sense. Lafina, do you want to add anything there?
No, not really. There's a little bit of feedback coming through me now. I'll just take a few comments here. Loving the iceberg illustration, says Fola. And Rosa Maria, great to see you. I think you're calling in probably from Andorra or somewhere warmer than here. And she's asking, were you worried about your inner voice kind of niggling and talking to you when you were making your own decision, Amina?
Definitely. That's why I was stuck for a little while, because well, there are competing voices, right? And we'll talk about those in a minute. But so the critical voice that wants to keep you safe and wants to keep you in the comfort zone. And then there's your intuition, which is usually softer and can get drowned, especially if there's a lot of noise and if you're in a lot of uncertainty and fear is kicking in. So your intuition can drown out. So what happened in Alaska is that the noise was cut out, so I could hear the intuition, and it just felt right, what the intuition was saying. So I hope that answers the question. So I think it's time for a little survey.
Ooh.
So having seen the career cycle diagram, that you start off and you think, yeah, this is great, and then you start to run into little niggles and obstacles, and then part of you doesn't want to carry on and is trying to hold you back, and you just go back to the old job, it's fine, why are you trying to do this, to complete confusion and despair and being in the dark, and then finally onto the other side where it's like, okay, something's happening, it's not exactly what I thought, but this is good. So if you had to pick one for where you are right now, which one would that be? We're
actually going to run a poll, guys. So some of you are already jumping straight to it, which I love, and you're typing into the chat box. But we have technology at our fingertips, and I'm going to start a poll. We're just going to launch that now. So all you have to do, if this comes up on your screen, is just pick the one that relates to you. So we'll just give you a minute to do that. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, we're almost there. If you haven't voted yet, we've got about 46% of you voted. Come on, guys. The rest of you, you've got to make a of you.
You can do it. Come on.
I'm itching to find out the results. Okay, we're up to 70%. So the last few of you.
Can we make it 100?
Have a little think. Which one are you? Uninformed optimism? Are you informed pessimism? Number 3, that just makes me laugh. The expletive in there.
No idea. No idea what's going on.
Okay, can we get up to 100? Has everyone voted? Okay, almost. I think I'll give you 10 seconds more. And we're going to shut down the poll. About 75% of you have voted. I don't know what the other rest of you are doing. So we have 5% are uninformed optimism. 38% have chose informed pessimism. 48% are uninformed pessimism. So you're in the valley of despair. Sorry to do that. And hopefully by the end you won't be anymore. And 10% of you are informed optimists. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Well, the good news is you're in the right place. So if you're in the valley of despair, this is the place for you. You're going to leave this webinar and you'll have at least one insight to carry you forward. Lafina, is the feedback still a problem? The sound, is it okay?
No, it's perfect. Perfect.
Okay, great. All right. So half the battle is understanding your own psychology, right? And what's getting in the way of you being in that informed optimism phase. So from working with people, with medics who are trying to change career, and from my own experience, these are the 3 mindsets that I've identified. So number 1, imposter syndrome. You've probably heard of it, and one definition of it is the inability to internalize your own success. So no matter what happens, no matter how many achievements you have, it's still not enough. There's still another qualification to get, there's still something to prove, there's still a job to prove that you've made it, that you need to do, and so on and so forth, before you can actually just be who you are and live your life the way you want to. So that is something to really watch out for, because it will cause you to go for jobs or value jobs that are prestigious, for example, even if they're not right for you. Actually, one example from a client I've worked with who's just an absolute superstar and has been in the Queen's Honors, on the Queen's Honors list for the work she did in rebuilding primary care services in a fragile state. As we did some work and she became more aware of the self-sabotaging mechanisms, she suddenly had jobs being thrown at her because she'd grown in self-awareness and confidence and leadership, and been offered a job at the WHO that she would have really loved a couple of years ago, she tells me, but now she sees the value of actually having a job more locally so she can benefit from more stability and more connection with people that she cares about that are around her, and has taken a different approach. So it's important to be aware of your blind spots. So if you think you have imposter syndrome, then just look out for it, read about it, inform yourself about it so you can recognize it when it pipes up. And a powerful inner critic, critical voice that you hear all the time telling you that whatever you're doing isn't good enough is a symptom of imposter syndrome. So any questions about that?
It doesn't look like it.
Anybody want to share anything around that?
A couple of seconds just for any time delays. Any questions from anyone right up until now from around anything that Amina has been talking about? No, I think we're okay to move on, Amina.
All right. So number 2, limiting mindset for medics is rescuer syndrome. So rescuer syndrome is the tendency to be the hero in the situation or heroine in the situation, and to always want to fix problems. You're good at it. You're very good at it. You know you can save the day, but it leaves you feeling a bit empty and drained, especially when you overgive, because you had to save the day again. And you can't relax. You cannot relax because you just feel you need to be there, be aware of people's needs. You anticipate people's needs before they're even aware of them themselves. And you run in, you dash in to help. So this can be tricky because some of us went into medicine precisely because this is very embedded in our personality and our character, and I certainly identify with it. Another term for it is the archetype wounded healer, and it is very powerful. And of course, it's great. It's a great trait to have because you help other people. And the trick is to, again, be aware of it so you choose when you apply it. You're not doing it compulsively, which is what the rescuer syndrome refers to. And for medic, there's also guilt that can appear as a result of rescuer syndrome. If you want to change career, or if you want to have more work-life balance, or if you want more money or a better lifestyle or whatever, because your rescuer, the rescuer part of you will not like that. It wants to rescue other people. Why should you be rescued, or why should you be content? There are problems to solve and lives to save. So that's another one to look out for. And then the final one is not a syndrome, it's just being human. So most people, let's say, are in a comfort zone. We build a comfort zone that means we're okay, that our life is okay. But if you want to live, if you want to feel more alive and feel like you're doing something that you really care about, that your heart is really into, then you need to step out of the comfort zone. And it's actually the stepping out, the repeated stepping out, that is the exciting bit that makes you feel alive and like you're living up to your full potential. And then as a result, you start to see amazing things happen around you. But at that point, you don't care because it's the way you're being and the experience you're having that you really value and that feels great. So if you're thinking of changing career or trying something different or just putting boundaries so that you have better work-life balance in your job, and you have a voice coming up saying, yes, but it won't work and nobody's going to let you do that. And anyway, what if you apply for other jobs and you get rejected and so on and so forth? Then that's just being human. But don't let it stop you. Be aware of it. Know that it's normal And facing that and going for your goal or your aspiration anyway is what helps you build resilience and grow as a person, and therefore experience better things and get the things that you want, which is what happened to me on that final bit of the career story that I was telling you about. So yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to say something about that. I'm sure you've heard of these before. If Lafina, is there? Do you think?
Just having a look now on the chat box. Yeah. So I mean, feel free to make some comments, guys, in the chat box. You could. It doesn't have to be directly related to this this part of the presentation, but you can let us know perhaps, you know, which stage in your career you're at. You know, are you happy with your career? Are you considering other options? Would you like to just make some different choices within your current career and diversify a little bit, or perhaps seek out opportunities that are a little bit more exciting and will inspire you, or whatever it is? Let us know. What are you thinking? So yeah, Denise is just saying, I think it gets harder to leave your comfort zone as you get older. What do you think about that, Amina? It's a great point.
Yeah, that is a great point. I think there's more, it feels like there's more at stake, especially if you have dependents, you have a mortgage and so on. But we know that from research with people in palliative care, that when you're at the final stage of life, the things that people care about are not comfort and safety or working hard. They are wanting to have lived in the way that made them happy. So I'd say that, yes, it feels harder, but don't give up. Don't give up. Try and find a way that feels comfortable for you, but that still takes you a bit outside the comfort zone. You don't have to panic. You don't have to give up and just, you know, have no income, for example. But find a way that stretches you just a little bit and takes you closer to your goals. I hope that helps.
That's great. And we have a couple of questions coming in. And Naoko has asked, how do you know if you're being brave or if your practical voice is speaking? For example, when you took the job with no security at the end of it, you know, what did you feel at the time?
I felt exhilarated because it was there all along, but it was just suppressed. So there was the desire to take this risk and leap and just try it, but it was completely muted and the practical voice was dominating. You know, you got to pay the mortgage, got to do this, got to do that. So I would say acknowledge the practical voice, thank it, take note of what it says. If it says, well, how are you going to pay the mortgage? And say, oh, that's a good point. Let me figure that out. And then figure it out. There are so many more opportunities to do things once you allow yourself to think that way. But if the practical voice is basically has got all the airtime in your head, then you won't move.
That's fantastic advice, actually. So Elon has said, I feel I have imposter syndrome all the time. I'm so scared that one day we'll all disappear.
So the fear of, I think Elon's referring to the fear of being found out, which is typical of imposter syndrome, hence the name imposter syndrome. So I don't know if you saw the cartoon, but know that a bunch of other people are walking around thinking the same thing. And it's very common amongst high achievers for obvious reasons. But I would really encourage you to get a handle on it. You need to recognize it when it's coming in and intervening. And again, it's all about self-awareness, acknowledging, taking note, and then speaking back from a different place, letting your optimist speak to the imposter, or letting the confident part of you speak to the imposter, because you do have a confident part of you. So get a handle on that imposter syndrome. Do not let it run your life, please.
Thanks, Amina. Jas is asking, looking for other options, but finding it difficult to hear my inner voice clearly, and also worried about financial obligations. Any advice for Jas?
Yes, Jas. So I'd say, again, acknowledge the practicalities, but allow yourself the possibility that there are other options, there are ways of dealing with it, right? Just give yourself permission to dream, to think outside the box. And then the other part was the intuition is drowned. Yeah, so there's some research that shows that the best ideas come to you in the shower, on a beach, or in nature. So get out there, change environments, get away from anybody who's negative or draining you, and let your mind wander and allow those insights to come so that your intuition can speak.
And one final comment from Maggie, who says, where do you start if you don't know what to do, but the only thing that you do know is that you want to change?
Thanks, Maggie. That's quite a broad question. The simple answer to that is start somewhere. Go to bed, wake up the next morning and write the first thing that comes to mind and go do that. I'm sure you've got plenty floating. You're all highly intelligent, highly competent people. You can work things out. So if there's some fear of failure coming in, which is then not letting you take a step forward, then just acknowledge, okay, I'm afraid of failing. And that's okay. I'm a human being. Yay. And then just try something.
Tawfiq's just saying, thinking of changing career that has dependence and is scared to leave comfort zone.
Yeah, Tawfiq, again, it's fine to be afraid. It's normal. Try and work out what the fear is trying to tell you. If it's saying, yeah, you need to look after your children, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you should look after your children. But allow yourself again to find other ways. And allow yourself to believe it's possible to do it differently. And finally, trust yourself. You can work it out. You can work things out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And following on from that, I think what you're saying, which is what Rosa Maria has just written here, she said, so the secret is allowing yourself to feel and not resisting it, or allowing yourself, I suppose, to follow your intuition or your passion about things. And I think absolutely, you've got to cut yourself a bit of slack, because we have a very prescriptive training and work environment currently. And sometimes you need to let yourself just get off the treadmill. Medicine's not going anywhere. Your career will always be there. If you want to jump back on it, you can. And Rumit has come up with a great quote here saying, you regret more what you didn't try rather than what you tried and failed. And it's good to come out of your comfort zone every now and again. I couldn't agree more. Good one, Rumit.
Absolutely. That's perfect. That is perfect. Couldn't agree more. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to dream. Give yourself permission to try and fail, and don't be hard on yourselves if it doesn't work out the first time. And trust that you can work it out. You can work it out. You're doctors. That is a hard thing to do, and you did it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you agree, Lafina?
Sorry.
Do you agree, Lafina?
Absolutely, but
you're a living example of this.
I'm not sure about that, but the great thing about having a platform and a forum for discussion is like this is I suppose to normalize it, because we've got lots of people from diverse backgrounds and diverse careers and more traditional careers, and all of it's good if it's good for you. And it's just really to accept that there is no one right way. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what your right way is, but you can do it, and don't be afraid to ask other people their opinion, but don't listen to the negative opinions.
Throw away that myth of effortless brilliance and effortless success.
Yeah,
everything works out first time for it's not necessary, and it's boring. So don't even try it, even if you can. So absolutely. So, anything else, or should we move on?
No, I think we can move on now. That's great.
All right. Thanks for the questions. They're really amazing questions, and I really enjoy the interactive bit. So keep them coming. Yes. That was in case you didn't think magic was a technical term. This is another way of putting it.
Brilliant.
Give yourself permission to step out of the comfort zone, because that is where the good stuff starts to happen. Trust me, I've been there. All right. So those are some of the principles and the mindsets to look out for. Again, just to emphasize, it's about self-awareness. Understand how you protect yourself, how you keep yourself in the comfort zone. Understand your jailers, if you wish, and how they're trying to keep you safe, but they're misguided in the way they're trying to keep you safe. We're in a civilized society. It's very unlikely you're going to die eaten by a wild animal or die starving. It's more likely you're going to end up obese. And I've done a PhD on this, so trust me. So in practice, now I'm going to share with you some steps that you can refer to. You don't have to implement all of them. You're probably implementing some of them already. But see if there's one or two that you can pick out that is the missing piece or could help catalyze your journey, whether you're feeling afraid or whether you're not allowing yourself to take risks. See if any of these can help you move forward. So without further ado, number one, on your career journey, if you don't know where to start, then take stock. And the usual advice is take stock of your strengths and weaknesses and your psychological profile and what kind of jobs would suit. But I would take it further and I would say take stock of your needs and how they're prioritized. And together with that, take stock of your values, because you may have started off, for example, with values that are about achievement and significance and being top of the class or the smartest one or the most committed, dedicated one. And find that your values are now changing. Now you're more about connection, you're more about contribution, more about learning. And what's happening on that cycle of change is often that your values are changing. And just to come back to the needs, the way you meet your needs can be changing. So, so my coach training was very broad. It spans 2 decades. I think I was born to do this. But Tony Robbins is one of the top transformational coaches in the world. And he has some very interesting principles. So he talks about our basic needs derived from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And they are safety, challenge, connection, and significance. And these need to be met one way or another. And how you meet them can be healthy or unhealthy. So if you're meeting your need for significance and connection and safety through your job, then you're going to really value that job, because that's more than 3 needs met through your job. But you may start to feel that you want to meet that need differently. And that's something that is really worth thinking about. How can you meet your need for safety differently? So everybody who asked, oh, the practical side and the mortgage and the dependents, and I bet on some level there's an assumption that you can only meet the safety through your job and through medicine in particular. So but take some time in your calendar, if this appeals to you, to sit down and think, how am I meeting my basic needs? Which ones are most important, and am I changing? Is the way I'm prioritizing my needs changing? So if safety was top, is something else top now, like connection? Or some of the higher needs, which are learning and contribution. If you're not into needs, you can think about it in terms of values. They're linked concept, they overlap, but they're a bit different. What are your values? Are your values about achievement, or are they about family? And that's okay. You can change your values. It's your life. You decide what's important to you, and don't let anybody tell you that you need to do it one way or another. And as an example, one of my clients who was in a very high profile job in his field was thinking of quitting, and he wanted to do something that he felt was more socially contributed more socially. He's not a medic. But then he realized that was just out of significance. He wanted to do that out of significance. And as he became aware of that, he realized that he didn't actually need to quit his job. So it's not your typical story of, yes, he quit the job and it all worked out fine. It's actually the opposite. Once he became very clear about his needs and his values, he decided that he didn't need to quit his job and he could make a contribution in a different way. Just checking the time. Oh, we're nearly done. All right, we're going to have to zoom through these. So number 2, declutter. So there are people, places, and habits that drain you of your energy. You need to cut those out now, because you do not have energy to spare when you're going through a career change or you're thinking of taking a career change. Number 3, this is the dreaming part, where I kind of touched on it earlier, where you don't want to just be analyzing everything. You don't want to be operating from the head up only, just trying to analyze everything and come up with a model, the perfect model where you put the variables in and it comes out with a perfect answer. It just doesn't work like that. That is the job of your intuition. But your intuition can only operate when you connect your head to the rest of your body and integrate your feelings with your thinking. And then your intuition can bring everything together and come up with the perfect answer. Set yourself up to win. So it's kind of linked to the decluttering. If you don't have an environment that's supportive of you taking your career change, then set it up. Find people who will encourage you to step out of your comfort zone. Manage your time better. And there's no such thing as time management. It's actually decision management. So make decisions that support you. If you need to time in the evening, then make sure you leave on time. Even if it's hard and you feel guilty about it, make sure you're carving out that time. And I did have a client who had 3 jobs, including international travel, and he needed to really focus on the project and benefited from just managing his time better and cutting out a lot of stuff that he didn't need to do, or that wasn't a priority, wasn't aligned with what he was trying to prioritize. And I know that now he's doing very, very well. And had a baby. Number 5, linked to setting yourself up to win, build your tribe. It is so lonely when you're trying to step out of the comfort zone and trying to do something that's a bit different to what everybody else is doing around you. So start connecting with people, whether it's mentors, peers, or people that you can mentor as well, because there are people who are further behind you in terms of sort of a career journey that might benefit from your insights and your experience. So start building that tribe so you feel that there's an ecosystem around you to support you and that you support as well, and it breaks that sense of isolation and loneliness and confusion. Number 6, bust that inner critic. So that's the voice that tries to keep you in the comfort zone, and it can take the form of imposter syndrome, it can take the form of the rescue syndrome, or it can take the form of just being a human and having a voice inside us that's the inner critic or the superego, and basically has these rules about what we need to do or not do, and kicks in whenever we try and do something that's not really about survival, that's about flourishing and growing and evolving humanity, because it's not interested in evolving humanity, it's interested in pure survival. So this is really about self-awareness, and this is probably the most important part of the whole process. Be very aware of what's going on inside your head, so you can focus on the right thoughts and calm the negative thoughts that try and hold you back. Number 7, take inspired action. So this is important because it relates to the bright idea in the shower, beach, or nature. So it's not about pushing. It's not about, oh, I've got to get this job. Oh, I've got to write that report. I've got to keep pushing until you can burn out. This is about waiting, being patient, sitting with the uncertainty, which can be very uncomfortable because we don't like that, especially as medics. We like to have the solution immediately. And then taking action on that inspired idea. So one client who was in a very reactive job, a new consultant in a specialty that she loves, and she wasn't sure how to get out of it. She knew it wasn't quite right, but she wasn't sure how to create a different job situation. And then as we went through the coaching process, she remembered an email. Somebody had contacted her and decided to respond to it. And that created a relationship that then led to the job that she has now, which is much more suitable for her. And by objective standards is a very good job. consultant job where she can have an impact in her field. So this is slightly different to the pushing mentality. It's more about the waiting and receiving the insights, allowing your intuition to operate. So it's not a kind of, there's no tension in it. It's more, oh, that maybe I should try that. Maybe I should contact that person. Maybe I should go for coffee with that person. All right, number 8, celebrate. We don't do enough of this. We never get the pats on the back in medicine, right? Nobody ever says, wow, you did a really great job. It's more like, oh, you messed up this thing. You didn't do the Venflon, or you, whatever.
Raise a hand if you can identify with that, guys. There should be a hand raise function somewhere on the dashboard. Yeah, we've got loads of people raising hands. Wow, the hand raises just went through the roof. Guys, I'm proud of you. Good job. You're really tuned in tonight. This is great.
Oh, it's great to have the engagement. Thanks so much, everyone. I realize I'm rushing through. So celebrate, whether you're on your own and with other people. Give yourself that pat on the back. Allow yourself, book yourself a holiday or whatever. Give yourself a break. Celebrate when you've succeeded, but more importantly, when you've failed, because it's the failures and accepting the failures and the rejections and the confusion and carrying on that is actually the amazing thing. So I am celebrating all your failures and all your rejections in advance, because I know that will get you to a better place. So number 9, review, rest, repeat. It's important, as I mentioned, this is all about learning. So to integrate, every time you fail or it doesn't work out the way you wanted, what did you learn from that? You will have learned something. So clock that, take that on board and implement it, integrate it in your strategy. Because then you need to repeat, it didn't work out once, you can't give up then, So you're going to have that resilience to keep repeating, and hopefully the celebration will help. And then finally, pay it forward, because I believe that you will make progress if you allow yourself to step out of the comfort zone, give yourself permission to fail and try new things and experiment and follow your heart's aspirations. So pay it forward, help someone else. And you don't even know that might come back to you anyway. But it's just a good thing to do for yourself, because it empowers you. All right, so just very quickly, do we have time for this, Lafina, or is it best to just go to the 5 steps?
No, we have time for it. I mean, if we try and finish on time, but if any of you want to need to leave at 9, then that's fine. We'll be sending the replay out, which will be available for around 48 hours after. So don't worry if you do need to go. Otherwise, we'll probably stay on for around 15 minutes after.
Yeah, 5-10 minutes, I think. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm curious. Which step resonated with you the most? Which one do you think you can take on board right now, do something about, and move yourself out of the comfort zone, move yourself forward on that career change cycle? So if you could probably just type into the chat box, is that right, Lafina?
Yeah, you can just type it into the chat box.
So I'll put these back.
Yeah, if you could pop that slide up again, I mean, that would be great. Which step is one that you're going to take? Declutter. Where do I start? Says Sabina.
Go, Sabina. Do what you have to, lady.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Sabina. I'm trying out minimalism this month. I'll let you know how I go. Maybe need to allow myself to dream a bit more. Step 4, always analyzing every option ad infinitum. That's Naoko. Yeah, that's a very common, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly, yeah.
Let go. Dream.
Take stock, says Fola. Excellent. And Jazz is saying, step 2, I'm also loving minimalism. Excellent. We are part of the same tribe. It's all about the 22-piece wardrobe.
You need to do a webinar on that, Lafina.
If I succeed in it, I will.
Minimalism for medics.
Yeah.
Transform your career.
Exactly. Tawfiq saying, review, rest, and
repeat.
Repeat, yeah, repeat.
Yeah.
A few more: review, rest, and repeats. That's a good one, actually, isn't it? Great.
Yeah. It's extending. So there's really something about extending that timeline of change. We squash things. Our timelines are too short. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do the other. We don't allow for the emotional process. That's really key, because the fears are emotional. So you need to allow time to process all of that, to go through the emotional cycle of change.
So we've just got Paul Muche just said hi, Paul, on Facebook Live, and he's chosen 7, take inspired action. We've got a couple of questions from Paul as well, whenever you're ready, Amina, for those.
Okay, shall we do the 5 daily actions and then get to questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, great. Thanks for the questions, Paul, in advance. So how did you bring this all together? So I put together 5 steps based on the coaching that I use, and that seems to make a difference, and move people forward on their career journey. But also help them feel more at ease. So you're back in flow in your career. If you remember a time when that was happening to you, it is possible to have that again if you allow yourself to grow. The 5 daily actions that could support you in doing that, and that I recommend, are: number 1, create headspace and heart space. And that allows you to declutter stuff on a daily basis, whether it's long-term stuff or stuff that happens that day. And then it allows you to tune in with yourself and start to connect with your intuition more regularly, so that your intuition can get stronger and help you in making decisions. So you're not in the black and white, should I do this, should I do that, and trying to work it out politically. So create headspace and heart space, number 1, every day. That could be through meditation, for example, but it could be something else, going for a run or whatever. Number 2, check in with your goals. So remind yourself why you're doing this. So set some cool goals, like I want to be able to make a contribution while having an amazing personal life or family life. I want to excel in my field, but also have a creative initiative, whatever, something that really jazzes you up. And then read that every day and remind yourself why you're doing it, because that will give me fulfillment, it will give me freedom, it will give me a sense of intimacy with the people I love and care about, and it hits that emotional core that then gives you energy and motivation to go out and do it, even when it's tough. So number 2, check in with your goals and why they're important to you every day. Number 3, check in with your values. That's related to the why. So if you value freedom, then make sure you're living somehow, you're embodying that freedom every day. And if what you're doing doesn't align with that value, then maybe you need to tweak your goal. So if you're going for a goal that's actually cutting out all your free time because it's just too demanding, then you need to think about, okay, it's the right field or the right type of job, but it's not this particular job because it's just eating up all my free time, for example. Does that make sense to you, Lafina?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, and number 4, take small steps. And experiment with those small steps. So if you're afraid you don't know where to start, you don't have to do a big thing. You don't have to find your perfect job tomorrow. You can just start with a small thing, like contacting someone on LinkedIn that's in the field that you want, that's got the perfect job, or the job that you think would be perfect for you. So it's just as simple as sending a message, connecting with someone. And I really believe that success is a team sport. You can have achievement on your own and have those accolades, but real success that gives you fulfillment, that is a team sport. It's about working with others, connecting with others, and allowing the magic of relationships to help to take you forward. And number 5, review and course correct on a daily basis. So again, that's integrating whatever you're learning and reflecting on yourself. Oh, did you catch your inner critic today? Well done you. Well done you for catching it and not giving into it. Did you take a small risk today? Well done you. And celebrate that. So those are the 5 steps, 5 daily actions, sorry. So if you want to, this is putting the steps into practice. These can help you. Any questions or reflections on that?
Okay, so we have, Nalco's just asking, this was referring to your other slides. And she says, building a tribe is a great step, but did you ever find it difficult to do this within medicine circles? where a lot of people are quite risk averse?
Yeah, you can do it any way you want. You can do it with the grocer on your street. If you feel that they're supportive of you, there's somebody who's going to support you and challenge you at the same time. They see the potential in you that's not yet realized. And so when you're with them, you feel like the greatness in you is being pulled out. So if somebody doesn't make you feel like that, don't make them part of your tribe. Pick people who pull the amazing stuff out of you. They make you want to be like that. Even if they're telling you, you're talking bullshit right now. You said you wanted to do this and you're making excuses. So that's okay if they have that approach. But you also need the other approach, which is, it's okay. You are doing your best. Have some compassion on yourself. It doesn't matter if it didn't work out. Just carry on. I believe in you. So you want people like that. And it doesn't matter if they're a doctor or they're something else. So pick them on the basis of how they're making you feel and whether they align with how you want to be.
Absolutely. And that could be right. I mean, it could be, your tribe are people in your immediate social network, whether that's at work or outside work. It could be an online community like the Eurekadoc community or one of the alternative careers groups. It could be that you're actually a one-to-one kind of a tribe with your coach or your mentor who's actually helping and supporting you through that, and maybe even some networks and resources that they can recommend. You just create your support network with whatever you've got. It doesn't matter whether that's someone that's physically available to you next door or whether it's just online.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eurekadoc is such a great resource, so make use of it, because it's I don't think there's much stuff out there like this, and I really respect it and appreciate it.
There's another great question here from Elon, who says, I find that a lot of colleagues are in denial or don't talk about career angst, as some feel it's not politically correct. And he's asking, did you find people were maintaining a facade or being someone they weren't?
Great question. So just to give you a story, when I was about to take my career leap out of my consultant role, I ended up telling some people that I was going on maternity leave, which wasn't true. Because it's true, you do not want people to squash your little tender offshoots of a dream. You don't need to tell them, you don't need to broadcast it, you don't need to advertise it. You just need to know where you stand, have your own self-belief, and have your tribe, so they can completely be outside work. Now, if you're in a toxic environment and you want to have a healthy, happy life, you're probably going to end up leaving that job at some point. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just making choices that are more aligned with a healthy, happy you. Don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's
but yeah, they're probably, if they're in denial stage, they're in the early career cycle. So you're probably further ahead than they are, and you can help them.
I think people's negative opinions are often, they're just projecting their own fears onto you, and actually what their own fears are for themselves, as opposed to what their opinions really are of you. So I just wouldn't worry about anyone else, thinks of your career. And let's go to Paul, because Paul has been asking a lot of questions on Facebook Live. So he's asking, this is an interesting question. Why do you think that doctors, who have to be quite intelligent to qualify, that might be a big assumption, just kidding, have difficulty making decisions about their career and decisions about what would make them happy? For example, is it a lack of self-awareness? Is it a lack of self-knowledge, or just a lack of careers advice, personal development, and life skills?
I think you've answered the question. Paul, you've got great self-awareness there. You should be a coach. Yeah, so absolutely, yeah. I think you've answered the question. And being aware of the mindsets that block medics, the rescuer, the imposter, it's important to be aware of those.
He also asked, is rescuer syndrome pathological to the rescuer?
It's the wounded healer syndrome. So if you're interested, definitely read about it, because there is stuff available about it. I didn't come up with that. It's pathological. It's like any addiction. It's pathological if it's compulsive. So it's okay to have a drink, for example, but if you can't control yourself, then it's compulsive, it's an addiction, and it's harmful to you and others.
Right.
So as a rescuer, you might think you're fixing a problem, but you're actually enabling someone to be a victim. you're assuming that they can't look after themselves, and you need to, if you're over giving, you're over intervening, you're taking away the other person's power. So if it's compulsive, you're not actually fully tuned in, like, okay, you know what, I don't need to intervene there. I don't need to stay until 11 o'clock at night to sort this stuff out. Then yeah, tune in. You'll probably find that there's a lot of stuff you don't need to do.
Great advice, Amina, thank you. And we've got another question from Jazz, who asks, are there any resources that you'd recommend reading that would help us to understand our personal psychology?
That's interesting. I don't know if there's a book. There probably are books for medics. Could do a plug for Dr. H here, who's written a book on burnout, I think, in doctors. That might be
Dr. H. Yeah, Dr. H has joined us online. I hope he's still watching on Facebook. So we're referring to, for everyone who doesn't know Dr. H, is Dr. Haidar Al-Hakim, who is otherwise known as the third eye doctor. Very interesting chap. I had the pleasure to meet in Holborn a few weeks ago. And he's written a book on burnout, which I think is due to be published pretty soon and available if it's not already. He's actually written a blog, which is on our website. So if you'd like to find out a little bit more about him, you can just pop over there and have a look. Any other books that you'd recommend or resources?
I'd recommend my own blog. So I have a blog called Wise Wednesdays, which you can sign up to, and where I discuss all of these issues. Every week I write an article around some of this, including rescuer syndrome, imposter syndrome. This week it's about fear of overwhelm. So if you sign up now, I'm about to send this week's Wise Wednesday, so you'll get something about fear of overwhelm, and also a video on how to differentiate between fear and intuition, which, considering today's questions, might be quite useful to a few people.
Yeah, I thoroughly recommend Wise Wednesdays, everyone. I've learned a lot actually by watching Amina's videos. They've been very, very good. Yeah. And Jess also had just mentioned, or rather asked, out of interest, did you do any formal qualifications to become a transformational coach, Amina? And yes. Also says, wonderful energy, guys. Thanks for a great webinar. Oh, thank you.
Back at you. So I did a coaching qualification with the Tony Robbins School. I decided not to do the treadmill because I've had enough of the qualifications. I'm sure many of you have. You don't need more exams. You know how to study. So a great advantage if you're a professional, like a medic, and want to do coaching is you know how to educate yourself and how to learn and do research. Absolutely. And coaching is still a fairly new profession. So you can shape it into something unique that brings your gifts to the fore. I have to declare also that the PhD in that was used psychosocial stress theory. That was important. I did social anthropology, med school. I did a course on philosophy of mind. I've spent thousands of hours with my own development, getting my own coaching and reading around. I'm really passionate about it. So the qualification wasn't that important. So if you're thinking of coaching, just go for it. You can do a qualification if you want. It probably has some uses, but it's more important to learn how to share the coaching and tell people about it and run a business or a practice around coaching. That's what most coaches are missing. So focus more on how to be an entrepreneur and run a business, and keep honing your skills as a coach through practice. And that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think as doctors, we're quite obsessed with certifications and qualifications, which I don't think are a bad thing, but they're not always entirely necessary. And I think if you're thinking of becoming a coach, certainly follow Amina's advice. But likewise, if you're thinking of finding a coach for yourself, I'd say the most important thing is that you, the values of the coach and just generally, the way that they interact resonates with you in a way that's going to help you to open up and be productive with them and utilize them as a good resource, as opposed to, how many letters they've got after their name. And I don't think there's no shortcut to doing that. You've just got to have a conversation, start having conversations with people, like with coaches, and just find out a little bit about them, like tonight with Amina, for example. Being on this webinar is a great opportunity.
Yay! Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So if you want to ask more questions about that, feel free to email me. So the final message is probably around living in the learning zone. So the danger zone is where you panic if you take too big a leap. So don't do that. I took quite a big leap, but I wouldn't, it's not for everybody to just sort of head out into the open and just figure it out from scratch. I like that. I like challenge as a value, but I don't have dependence. So if you have dependence, obviously it's different. So be in the learning zone. Don't be in the comfort zone. Don't be in the danger zone. Be in the learning zone. Stretch yourself a little bit every day. Try something different. Review, learn, repeat, and celebrate any failure or rejection. It's great. Go for it. And finally, I think, yeah, that's it. So that was my presentation. I hope it gave you some insights. It gave you some encouragement to go for it. You have Lafina here as a living example of going out there and doing a thing. I hope I've provided also an example. And feel free to connect with me if you want to email me for advice, insights, recommendations, or for air. There's my email address. And if you want to find out more about the themes that we've discussed, then subscribe to Wise Wednesdays. And if you subscribe now, you will get the one that's coming out shortly.
Yes, definitely. Get over there, guys, and sign up to Wise Wednesdays.
And there's a backlog of about a year, so there's tons of stuff there that you can find out more about. And there are recommendations there for books and things in some of them. Cool. And finally, the gift, because we made it to the end.
Yes.
I have put together a little guide that puts together the 10 steps. Well, it kind of is a summary of this presentation with a bit more detail. So if you would like to receive it, I would love to send it to you. Email me on amina@dramina.com and I will get it to you ASAP.
Amazing.
And I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time, and investing your time in your learning and taking a chance. And you don't know me, you don't know what to expect. Yeah, there are 45 of you on here, so that's just amazing. It's such a privilege for me to be able to make a contribution. So thank you for showing up. Thank you, Lafina, for the opportunity, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Oh, thank you so much, Amina. I think everyone will join me in giving you a silent digital round of applause, and thanking you very much for your insights this evening. So I'm going to we'll leave this screen up for another 5 minutes in case you want to jot down Amina's contact details. Actually, would you go back one slide, Amina, if they're not on there already? I can't quite
I don't know. Did Paul get all his questions answered? Or
I think so. Yeah, we'll just double check out our Facebook Live. And I'll just let you guys know, if you want to catch Eurekadoc, we've got a couple of events coming up in October, which is very exciting. We've got the Alternative Careers Fairs. The first one is we're running a workshop in Manchester at Alternative Docs. And we're also going to be at Medic Footprints, who are our media partner, at the end of October, running a workshop there and also hosting the pitch competition, which is going to be really cool. Really looking forward to that. And we are thinking of designing a new course or maybe a new careers resource. So we'd like your help and your opinion on what kind of stuff you'd like coming up. So I'm just, if you don't mind, going to run a very quick poll. And if you could just answer yes or no to whether you'd be interested in kind of a bite-sized learning resource around careers and careers development. So I'm going to launch that right now. So if you'd be so kind just to say yes or no. And then we've got a couple of questions left just to be answered by Amina. So whilst you're clicking yes or no, the first question, Amina, is from Kunli, who says, in making a career change, is age a factor to be considered? And can one get to a point where it becomes too late to do so?
No. That's the short answer. There are people who did their best work at 50. And people are reinventing their careers at 60 in retirement. These days, research shows you can have 2-3 careers. So do not let that hold you back. Just get rid of all those stories. You just need to pay attention to the feedback. What happens when you try, right? Probably you're not going to die. You're not going to starve. You're not going to get arrested. And then you'll find out, okay, I can take another step. So just allow yourself to dream. and allow yourself to take risks, experiment, and fail. It's okay. That's what we're meant to be doing. We're not meant to be succeeding all the time. The other thing, obviously, I would say is weigh the risks. Don't ignore the risks. Just take them on board and try and mitigate them. What's the worst case scenario? How can you mitigate some of the risks? And then take your step, because mitigating the risks will calm your mammalian brain and will allow you to move forward. But definitely do not have the age story running around your head.
We also have thanks for that, Amina. We also have just a suggestion on a good book to read from Rosa Maria around this subject. And she says, can I suggest Anne Marquier's book, The Freedom to Be and the Power to Decide, this lady's a French psychologist. So Anne Marquier, spelled with a Q, The Freedom to Be and the Power to Decide. And her books are easily written and read. Principles can be convoluted at times, but she would recommend reading it overall.
Good title. That's a great title.
And I would add to that, there's a book called The Values Factor by John DeMartini, and that's a very good book if you can take some time to work through it and do the sort of tasks that are set, because it really helps you to discover and drill down to what your true values are. And believe me, they can be quite different to the values that might slip off your tongue in a conversation when it really comes down to it. And it's a very good book, which could affect your decision around different career choices that you might make to ensure that they're in line with your values, because the outcome usually is that you're a lot happier with your career choice after doing so. Then we've got lots and lots of thank yous. Thank you for this. I'm 52. Awesome. Thank you. Very thought-provoking. Thanks very much. Very inspiring. Great job. Insightful. You guys are amazing. Great to love. Story and tips.
It's fantastic.
Giving this for free. You are most welcome. That's what we're about. Education and supporting you at every stage of your development. Careers development. We don't think there's enough careers advice and development and support around. So this is our contribution towards you and our community. And we're very, very happy to have Amina involved in that as well tonight. So I think that's pretty much it. I'll just check the Facebook feed one more time. Let's just see if I can do it without creating any echo or reverb. I think that's about it for tonight. So unless anyone has any final remarks, great webinar. Thank you, Lafina and Amina. I think we'd like to just thank all of you for your time and let you go to enjoy the rest of your evening, what's left of it. Great. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks again, Amina.
Thanks, Lafina.
Okay, good night.
Bye-bye.